Okay, now I'm plugged in. Okay, let's get started. Good evening again, everybody. I had this image up as people were logging on. One of the things that you will be doing over the next couple of days, the next week, is going out into the field and doing your field research. And observation is one of the main tools, techniques for doing that in order to understand the problem space. And we always have to remind ourselves that we don't always see what's there. So this is an optical illusion. And I will talk a little bit more about observations over the next couple of days. I'll share some tips and thoughts and maybe techniques. But as with many skills, interviewing, observation, we have to practice those skills. If we don't practice them deliberately, we might miss out on opportunities. So this is just a reminder that we should walk through life sometimes like a tourist, very curious, kind of looking, zooming in and zooming out, as Tim, I believe, mentioned yesterday as part of a discussion, looking at things from different perspectives. So I'll circle back to these kinds of ideas over the next couple of days. So welcome to, oops, not sharing yet. I am. Welcome to day 2. I still need to wake up. Day 2 of module 2. Here we go. And that's the wrong sequence. I'll put that I'll come back to that later. Here we go. So today's timeline is a little different. We'll have the speaker Alfonso Morris from Netflix. He will join us at 9 o'clock California time, 7 o'clock Riyadh time or Saudi Arabia. And so I wanted to ask you to give me some feedback about when would you like your 10-minute break. We can have it before the speaker starts, or we can have it afterwards. What do you prefer? Okay. Let me check. Looks like you have something. Okay. Just noticed that you are replying in the chat. So let's do it before. And give me a second. I need to grab my iPhone and clock or watch. So that I won't forget. So we'll spend the first hour together for about 50 minutes, which is now another 40 minutes. And then we'll take a 10-minute break before our guest speaker starts. Excellent, thank you. The other thing related to just housekeeping and agenda a little bit. This week, module 2, or actually week 2, and especially today, we're really starting with the design thinking deep dive. And what that means is from now on, the focus is really on you working in your teams, applying design thinking techniques and tools as we go through the process. So we will spend more time during the daily sessions working in teams. And also I do encourage you, because we have a lot to do, we have a lot to cover, and time flies by very quickly. I also encourage you to fully utilize the sprint-based platform to share your findings and your thoughts, as well as the working on the technique, on the tools, applying the tools. And I also encourage you to use your time as much as you can. I fully understand that you have a full-time job, but there are certain things, important things that you just can't do during the live sessions. You really have to meet your users, get close to the user's space during the day. And so I really encourage you to do that. My role will continue to be the role of a coach and a guide, but more so than during the first week. I will share with you probably every day during every live session. I will focus on a certain technique or a tool or a mindset that I find particularly valuable. I will share that with you. If it's a template or a tool or a technique that you can use for your field research or for your defining the challenge from a human-centered perspective, I will also upload that and share it on the sprint-based platform. Basically, you can ask me anything. I am available, certainly during the live sessions. If you work in your breakout rooms in Teams, if you work on the techniques or the tools, or if you have any questions about the platform, grab me, reach out to me during the session, reach out to me via Slack during in between sessions. I will be available for you to help you with any questions you might have or tips that I can share. You can ask me anything. I can't promise that I have an answer for everything, but I am here for you. Two other minor housekeeping things. I do need, and I mentioned that in my Slack message to everyone last night, I do need, for each team, I need a team leader. So if you, during the live session, if you could share with me in the chat maybe, as we spend more time during today's session, before the end of today, I would love to have a team leader for each team. The main function for the team leader, from my perspective, is there are certain privileges related to the sprint-based platform that a team leader has. So I would be working with a team leader, and there are also certain things the team leader can do. For example, as you log into your team space or studio, the team leader can add the description of the design challenge as well as the design brief. And I encourage you to do that as soon as possible. If you do it today, then I will be able to look at it this afternoon on my end, and will be able to provide you feedback either through Slack, or tomorrow when you meet in Teams, I can join you in your breakout rooms, and I can give you some feedback about the design challenge that you have picked up to now. You have to, I encourage you to really finalize that as soon as possible. Finalizing means you can still tweak it here and there, but you really need to have a good, solid understanding by now, by tomorrow, what challenge you want to focus on. The other thing I would like to encourage you, as I always do when we use these kinds of platforms, try to personalize them as much as possible. It's always nice to log on and see smiling faces, knowing who, it just gives a little bit more social context. I want to just set the context a little bit. So for the next week, and in Sprint Base, you have a calendar. And at this point, I gave you about a week to really focus on the field research. And that means really trying to discover as many aspects related to the user, the context as possible within the sphere of the problem space. So we're really focusing on the discover phase. That's why we call it a deep dive. Discover the right problem to solve, what is happening, why is it happening. I might adjust the calendar a little bit depending on how the teams progress. Just keep an eye on the calendar. I might adjust it a little bit. One thing that you might be able to do, I encourage you to really think about this today, is think about the stakeholder map. Think about the key stakeholders related to your challenge. Let me just move this over here. So this is a stakeholder map. There are different versions of stakeholder maps, and I have one other one that I might share with you via the Sprint Base platform. I like this one because it's very comprehensive, and it also gives you different stakeholder groups. Some are crucial, others are more supportive. But this is a stakeholder map related to the challenge of how might we help immigrant students here in California, for example, feel more part of the community. So you really have the main user in the center. That's the focus of your field research and of your design thinking. But then you have certainly lots of important stakeholder groups. You have the school, absolutely crucial, because the members of the school community, they teach the immigrant student. You have the school administrator, who is also connected to the government. There are lots of policies and regulations that impact the school directly and indirectly, as well as directly the immigrant student. You have the immigration lawyer, also part of the government stakeholder group. You have the health community. Down here, you have the family, absolutely crucial in terms of helping, for example, an immigrant student to feel more connected. You have the larger community, the friends, the neighbors, cultural associations. Then, of course, you have employers who eventually, once the immigrant student either graduates from high school or from college, provides a job and skills. So this is an example of a very comprehensive stakeholder group. What you can do today is, for example, go into Sprint Base, go into your team space and start a whiteboard and start thinking about the main user, the key stakeholder groups, and you can use Post-its or text and start creating a first version of a stakeholder map. It's always good as you start out thinking about field research to figure out who are the key stakeholders, and then you can think about interviewing members of the stakeholder groups as well as observation. This is also mentioned in some of the resources on Sprint Base. Identifying extremes is always a good thing, because quite often when you think about observing or interviewing and identifying unique behaviors or needs or feelings, it's always very beneficial to go to the extremes. So if you think about a user group, let's say people who use mobile phones. Can you think of extreme users within the group of mobile phone users? What are some who are some extreme users? Any thoughts? Okay. If you feel comfortable, please just use your microphone. Chat is okay, but I always focus more on the screen and the people and the faces, and I don't always focus on the chat. So teenagers, Lena mentioned teenagers. Who else?
Maybe I believe people who have businesses through social media accounts.
Okay. Yes, these are probably people who use mobile phones quite a lot. Anything else?
Also, delivery, people who work for delivery apps, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other thoughts? Okay, let me just move on then. So basically, there are different kind of continuums that you could think of in terms of identifying extreme users. So you can look at demographics. You can look at how do seniors use mobile phones, or maybe they don't use them at all. You can look at gender, and you can also look at ethnicity. You can also look at behaviors, experts versus novice. For example, with computer users, you can have, you know, the teenager who runs his own technology company, or you can have novices. And then, of course, motivations, what drives someone to do something. So as you think about users, as you think about stakeholders, as you start thinking about whom to observe and whom to interview, think about those kinds of extremes. As I mentioned earlier, if you look at the extremes, quite often you have a lot of, you might be able to run into what we call aha moments. And these aha moments are the kinds of insights that we want to hunt for. Because if you have a good insight of your user needs, then there is a much better chance that you will be able to come up with a unique solution. And I will talk about insights during the next couple of days more often. One of the buzzwords of human-centered design is, of course, empathy. Everyone talks about empathy, and I just had a quick glimpse at the slides of today's speaker, and he will also mention empathy. Empathy is the magic word for human-centered design, and it really connects the designer. It kind of uses, it acts as a bridge between the designer and the user. So what is empathy? Any definition, any thoughts that you can think of what empathy is?
I would say the ability to feel what other people feel exactly, like putting yourself in their shoes.
Okay, that's I couldn't have said it better. Putting yourself into the shoes of others. There is a differentiation between empathy and sympathy, and I don't want to dive too much into this, but empathy is really feeling with someone, and sympathy is if you acknowledge the feeling that someone has, but you don't necessarily have the same feeling or the same experience. So here are some definitions that I like in terms of empathy. The practice of imagining or trying to deeply understand what someone else is feeling or what it's like to be in their situation. As you said, Atyef, the ability to feel what others are feeling as if you are feeling it yourself, and a deep understanding of the problems and realities of the people you are designing for. So as empathy is, as I said, it's really absolutely crucial for human-centered design, and I think a lot of people they don't realize how important it is for any kind of solution that you want to develop, whether it's a service or a product, to really focus on the empathy part, to really understand the user or the main client from that kind of emotional perspective. It's absolutely crucial. We are starting the field research phase, or what I call in my framework, the discovery. And basically the key tools and techniques, and this is, again, it's no rocket science, it's interviewing and observing. So we're talking about the triangulation of empathy. Interviewing is really focusing on what people say and observing what people do. And the third element that I always like is the notion of, as a designer, to also experience. So for example, if my challenge were to how might we improve public transportation in San Francisco, then I would think about some of the key users, the stakeholder group, and I might go to a bus stop and interview people at a bus stop. I might go and interview the transit authorities. I might just look at a busy intersection or at the main bus terminal, and I would do some really detailed observations. And of course, I would also want to use the public transportation system in San Francisco and experience it myself. Because when you experience it yourself, sometimes you have a totally different take on the whole situation. So these are the three main tools and techniques or aspects of our field research. So just keep those in mind. I want to share with you 2 videos, and I want to make sure that the sound, if the sound doesn't work, let me know. Or no, let me reverse that. If the sound works, give me a thumbs up. So the first one is from Google. And no, I don't want to say anything else. I just want you to watch the 2 videos. Sound okay? No? No sound?
There is a very little sound. I think it's coming from your speakers to the microphone.
Okay. Yeah. Then I need to do a quick keynote to share sound. Give me 1 second. Yeah, it sounds like it's not using the system sound.
I think when you share the screen, there is like a choice where you need to tick where it says use the computer sound.
Yeah, it's checked. I don't understand why it's not coming through. So let me. Okay, let me do that again. Share sound. Output. Okay, let me give it another try. Sharing. Still having trouble. I'll give it one more try. How about now? Better?
Yes.
Today, we have something extra special for you guys, and you guys will be some of the first people outside of our team and outside of Google to ever drive in it.
I don't think we see the video. We only hear the voice.
How about you give us the link? And we can watch it.
There's no steering wheel in the way.
It was a big decision for us to go and start building our purpose-built vehicles for this. And really,
Okay, so sounds like it's not working, right?
Yeah, we weren't able to see the video.
Okay.
We only listened to the voice.
Okay. I can figure it, I can try and fix it and either show it later today or tomorrow.
I have a suggestion. If you could post it on Slack and at the same time we can watch it.
YouTube.
Yeah, it's, I'm not sure because the video is embedded into the slide. So I'm not sure if I can easily share it through Slack. It's okay. You know, technology happens, so. That's what it is, and I'm going to move on. So what I'm going to do with you now, what I'm going to do now is share with you the, I'm going to sprint base. And hopefully you can see that. I gotta figure out the sound issue. It's a nice little video clip that really emphasizes product development from an empathetic perspective. So if I can share it and download it, I'll share it via Slack. But what I would like to do now is, because that's what we're going to do, is focus on your teamwork. So let me go back to the home. So have you been able to log on to your Sprint base account? Everyone? Good. So I can see all the 4 teams and the 2 demo sites. You should only be able to see team 1. So what I would like you to do, as I mentioned earlier, try and go into your profile and customize your profile, add a photo. And then the other thing I want you to do is go into your design sprint. This is team 1. And as Brian shared with you yesterday, in your space, you will have some resources and general tips and suggestions how to get started with the field research. I highly recommend that you look through these documents, especially the toolkit on the field research, how to plan your interviews, what kind of interview methods you can apply. The other thing, there are some specific, there's also a field observation guide, a desktop research guide. What I want you to do today mostly is familiarize yourself with that team space on the sprint-based platform and start planning your research, focusing on interviews and observations. So it's 8:35. I'm going to put you into breakout rooms, and I would like for you to start as a team, explore these resources if you haven't done so individually, and really get started thinking about planning for the interviews and the observations. As I mentioned to you earlier, time will fly by really quickly, and it's absolutely crucial that as you think about the workspace and as you have the opportunity to share your findings from your research through this input tool where you can share photos, documents, interviews, and everything. It's the success of this program and the success of this design thinking deep dive really depends on the quantity and the quality of your field research. If you end up not having a lot of resources, then that will impact the remaining of your work. So I really encourage you to go out quickly, as soon as possible, look at the resources, look at the tips, how to plan for an interview, what kinds of questions to ask. Find your users, identify your users as quickly as possible, and get as much interviews and as many interviews and as many observations as you can. That will help you later on in the design thinking deep dive. One thing that you could do today, if you wanted to, you could add a whiteboard, name it stakeholder map, and start planning or sketching out your main stakeholders. That's just a suggestion I have. That's something you could do today, or well, you could start it now and then continue after the presentation. Let me delete this again. And so I will be available in the main room, and I will roam around visiting all the different groups. But if you have any questions, you can reach out to me. You can send me a chat, and I will visit your room. So we have about 10 more minutes before the presentation. Why don't we get started now? And I'm going to put you into the breakout rooms. Okay, give me a second. Asta, do I have,
Yes,
I should have the breakout rooms, right?
right. If not, then I will just quickly change it.
Yeah, I
Like
don't
remove
see it right
both.
now as an option. If you could give me that option.
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Here we go. Yes. Okay. Hang on. 3 and room 4. Lots of technology. And room 3, one more. Here we go. I'll bring you back in 10 minutes. Mohammed Al-Masri, are you there?
Yes. Yeah, I'm here.
I can see you. You are group 3, right?
3. Yeah, right. Group 3.
Okay.
Thank you. I should join,
Sure.
right?
Yeah, please join. You should see
Okay,
a message now, right?
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay. Technology challenges.
Reinhold,
Yeah.
a little later on in the material, as you go down, I'm not sure. I can't press the buttons on your screen, but there's an actual a stakeholder map in a PowerPoint presentation that they can populate. Makes it easier for them.
Right.
Go down to 5. Go down to 5 here.
5. What do you mean by 5?
Oh, you've got your sprint base up on the screen, right? Yeah. Go to 5. Okay, it's not 5. Go to 6.
Yes, that is.
No, go to
yeah,
6.
that is a different kind of stakeholder group that focuses more on the business planning.
Yeah, I know, but if you go down till you see it. Now click on it. It says stakeholder map.
Have you used Sprint-based before?
No, based on your suggestion, I went through it this morning. And I saw that, and so as I was going through, I just looked at it. And
yeah,
it seemed to be doing the same thing as what you were trying to do, or what you showed.
Right.
And it, you know what I mean? You got the center focus is the critical people, and then as you go out, right?
Yes. That's another version of a stakeholder map, and it's good to. What I can do is I can make it available for them to access it, because at this point, that particular phase is still locked. but it's a good template to have. It's one of
Yeah,
several.
yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't realize.
But you did your homework.
Yeah, I tried to.
And did you find it easy to navigate around?
Well, there was a lot of stuff there, but one thing that I wanted to mention to you is that this seems to be, you know, for lack of a better way of describing it, it seems to be in beta testing. And the reason why I say that is that there was, you know, I noticed quite a few, you know, grammatical, little spelling mistakes.
Yeah, there were some grammar issues. I noticed that too.
Exactly. So no, not, I didn't, you know, I didn't want to bring that up, but I thought it would be helpful for, you know, if you're talking to Brian.
Yeah, I will.
Because maybe that's one of the things that he was hoping that, you know, the feedback that he would get from this exercise is that any of those little things that people discovered, they could bring to his attention, and then he could fix them. And
yeah.
And, you know, so.
Yeah, I also noticed there's one particular tool that I had some problems with, and I don't know if it's my computer because I just upgraded to a new computer, or whether it's the platform.
Are you using a Mac?
I am, yeah.
That probably explains it.
I drank the Kool-Aid.
There you go.
Because I worked at Apple, so.
What color was it?
Okay, everybody, welcome back. It's 9:04 in San Francisco, and I'm delighted to introduce to you Alfonso Mores, also known as Fons, from another Silicon Valley icon, Netflix. And he's going to share with us kind of Netflix use of human-centered design, and I'm sure he will provide a much larger context for that as well. So Fons, without further ado, I'm going to pass it on to you. So welcome, delighted to have you here.
Thank you, excited to be here. So good morning, everyone. I will share my screen. 1 second. Okay. Thumbs up if you can see my screen. Thumbs up. Got it. Great. So, good morning. Today, I would like to discuss an introduction to enterprise level innovation and design thinking. You can reach out to me on Twitter at Young Fonz. I love to hear from people, whether it's about design or about anything. I love supporting the community, so please feel free to reach out. So, I want to try something that I do at a lot of my talks. Like if you know how to use the annotate option and you see it on the screen, I want everybody to type how they're feeling today about this chat. Can you see my text coming up? Like if you look at the bottom, you may see yep, I see somebody's got it. Yep. So if you do text, then you can actually type. Oh, smiley face. That's good. That's cool. I appreciate that. That's good vibes. Let me do one more. Proud to be here. Feeling great. That's good. That's good. Exciting. I like to do that as a slight icebreaker to get, oh, like I see somebody else about to type something. Let me give them a chance. Oh, they changed their mind. It's okay. Like I think everybody's excited to be here just like I am. Let's see. So, excited. Good. Okay. Move on. Okay, So, hi there, I'm Fonz Morris. I am lead product designer for global conversion at Netflix. I'm a self-taught designer. I've been in design for about 15 plus years. I have started two startups, actually. One was a content management system for independent artists and brands as a way for them to learn how to monetize their brand more. And the second startup was a video conferencing platform, very similar to Zoom, where we wanted to try to help bring more user engagement to a scenario just like this, where you would be able to use different UX features to let me know how you're feeling about the talk. And then I would be able to use that data to help kind of steer where my talk was going. Unfortunately, like most startups, both of those startups didn't end up staying around. So I didn't become a billionaire, but I did learn a lot from them. I think experience is really priceless, honestly. So there's a lot of things I learned from it. Do I think I'll ever be another founder? Not sure. Maybe, well, right now I currently advise a lot of startups because I'm just an entrepreneur by nature, and I like being in that space and working in the growth space. So I've been doing a lot of advising. And previously, I worked at Coursera, which is an online education platform, Comcast, which is a massive telecommunications company in the US, High Five Games, which is a video game platform, Mint.com, which is personal finance, Def Jam Records, ESPN. So I've bounced around a lot through the industry because I just believe in having an organic career and letting life take me where it takes me. But I've been really happy with the different companies that I've worked at, and I'm really proud to be at Netflix today. So the outline for today, I would like to talk about what is Netflix, an intro to growth design. I want to give a real world example of a test that we ran at Netflix that I was the lead on. I have a couple takeaways, and then I want to leave time for us to do questions at the end. And if you have questions that you want to ask during this, if it's a burning question, please feel free to ask. You don't have to wait till the end. So let's get started. So what is Netflix? Netflix is a streaming service that offers a wide variety of award-winning TV shows, movies, anime, documentaries, and more on thousands of internet-connected devices. Now, some people know what Netflix are, some people don't. We are a global brand, but there's still certain areas that we're still trying to break into. So that's why I wanted to make sure that I gave a clear understanding of what Netflix is. So a few stats about Netflix. We have 209 million total subscriber base. We're available for streaming in over 190 countries. We offer our content in over 33 languages. And worldwide, as of now, we have over 13,612 titles to watch. Now, some of those titles aren't all available in all countries because of licensing, but we have that many in our database. So that just lets you know the breadth of how much content we can offer our subscribers, and we're growing that every day. So what is my job? I'm a lead product designer on the growth team. I focus on designing products that will help us grow our global user subscribers. Currently, we're at 212. Our next goal is 500 million, and that's my team's responsibility. So our product team is split into two teams. There's the non-member side, which is Netflix.com, the sign-up flow, which is the team that I'm on, and then there's the member side, which is responsible for Lolamo, which is our list of movies. That's the screen you see when you log into Netflix that shows all of the thumbnails of the content that you can watch. And then other areas like account settings go on the member. Why I wanted to break this out and give some clarity on this is the two teams focus on two completely different things. Non-member focuses on conversion and getting people to subscribe, where member focuses on the UX for our current subscribers and constantly making sure we build an experience that keeps people coming back and wanting to tell their friends and wanting to subscribe to Netflix and pay their bill every month. So with that, I want to give a slight introduction into what is growth design, because some people don't know what growth design is. But a good definition that I found is growth design is a process at the intersection of growth, a scientific method to improve business metrics, and design, a human-centered process used to solve problems. I feel growth design is right as if where business and design overlaps, that little piece in the middle, that's growth. Because not only am I focused on building a great product, but I'm also focused on making sure that I stay aligned with the company's goals, business strategies. Metrics are very important to me. Data is very important to me. So not only do I focus on a product to build, I focus on what's the impact that this product will actually have for the company. Some other small things I want to explain to help you understand about growth design versus just traditional product design is we base most of our decisions on data, not assumptions. We have too big of a user base to just guess what we think. And I don't really feel like that's how you build an inclusive product, by just doing assumptions that what you think is best. If you have customers from all over the world, you should probably want to get as much input from as much diverse input as possible. You definitely focus more on the user, not the designer. When I first started design, honestly, all of my stuff was focused on me. And I just wanted people to tell me how good of a designer I was because I was trying to get my confidence up. And I thought that's what people actually wanted to see. Now I realize my job is to make sure that I build an amazing experience for you. And that's it. Hopefully I like it at the end of the day, but as long as it solves your problem, I did my job. We're constantly iterating on things opposed to waterfall where it may take you 2 years to get something out the door. We focus more on trying to constantly test and keep getting feedback. So we're building a better product as we go along, as opposed to putting what we say, all our eggs in one basket. And then if when you finally release, the user doesn't like it, now you're stuck. You have to make all these changes and you're constantly asking yourself, why didn't you just probably get feedback a little earlier from your users? So we're constantly iterating, trying to get an MVP out the door, minimum viable product, and then how do we keep building on that to just make it better over time? We're very, very flexible, and we have an agile process, meaning sometimes we don't know what the right answer is. So instead of us just focusing on one, we're just able to be nimble and change things, not really in a snap of a finger, but if somebody on a team suggests an idea that may be a better idea than what we're doing, we're gonna take that idea into consideration and try to find a way to use that info, because we wanna stay flexible so that we're building things that can scale and aren't always just tied to one specific answer, because what if that answer doesn't work in a month or 6 months from now? So being able to be flexible is really important. And then we take less risk than traditional design, because we do a lot of testing where we'll do 4 or 5 tests before we ever roll something out. But by doing all those tests, it allows us to get the data that we need to feel very confident about where we're rolling out, because the worst thing we can do is roll out something bad and have to bring it back, as opposed to roll out something small and keep building on top of that. So there's a big difference between growth design and just product design, but I feel like growth design is a layer on top of product design. So what does my growth team look like at Netflix? We have product designers, we have product managers, we have content designers, we have our algorithm team, localization team, engineering, front end and back end engineers, data scientists, design ops. So our team is very, very, very diverse. We're over 70 people on the team, but each of us is focused on a different area. It's a very collaborative environment, but design is very collaborative in general, where I spend most of my time talking to all of these other people besides the other designers on my team, because I need to make sure I'm in sync with all of these other people, because we pretty much do our thing and come together to build this product. So it's like you're making a dish and all of us is a really important ingredient. And without one of these ingredients, it may not end up tasting good, or the product may end up not being that successful. So I spend so much time communicating with people, and that's another really important value and skill of design, you need to be able to communicate with people, because all of these people might not understand my design. All of these people are going to help me build my design. So I need to make sure that I can give them the information that they need. I can get the feedback from them, and we can all work on this as a team. This is a very, very, very team focused company and culture, as well as discipline. So I just wanted to give that insight in case you all wondered, okay, do I just go do something on my own and come back and launch it? And it's nowhere like that. It's so many different people in every step of the process. But I really do like that, because you get to lean on the expertise of all your coworkers and your teammates to make sure that y'all are putting the best foot forward for, in my situation, Netflix. So I want to tell a story about a growth experiment that took almost 2 years to complete. And why I want to talk about this is because I was the lead on it, but it also covered so many different stages and steps. I learned so much about what it takes to launch a product as big as this on a platform as big as Netflix for a user base as wide as Netflix. So our growth team, most of our projects all have 3 super important components. One is a hypothesis. Everything starts with the hypothesis on our team. Without that, you don't really know what you're doing, why you're doing it, where you're starting, what your goals could be. So that's kind of like our main first point. And then second, it's the testing. We believe in the power of data, and we use it to help us make decisions. So like I said earlier, which I'll go into more details with this later on, we do a way more testing than we do actually launching things, because if something doesn't make it through test, then we'll decide, should we iterate on it more, or is this just not the best idea? Which I'm fine with that. I don't want to just be a team that launches a bunch of things that aren't successful. I'd rather have one launch that's super successful than 20 that were just okay. And then last, it's results. The growth team is super metrics driven. We're always worried about, was this a revenue-based test? Was this a subscriber-based test? Was this a test to see if we can bring people back who canceled? Is this conversion-based? We're always gonna work closely with our data science team to understand the metrics at the end. So one, we can determine if it was a success or a failure, but also we use that data to figure out, are there any improvements that we can make from this? And by having that real data, that just is way more reliable than assumptions, like I said earlier. So the test that I want to talk about today is called a Video on TV Non-Member Homepage Update. Hopefully I'm not talking too fast for everyone and you can catch some of the things that I'm saying. So we shortened it to VOTV on NMHP. So you can say that you learned a little bit of Netflix lingo today. VOTV on NMHP update. Super amazing project, really excited to talk about it. So like I said, everything we do starts with hypothesis, right? So this is called our non-member homepage on television. We've had this screen up for almost 10 plus years. It's a very effective screen. It allows us to show dynamically different content we have on the platform, and it also can be updated dynamically through engineering, as opposed to a designer having to physically create one of these every day, which would be almost impossible when you think of all of the different versions of this page that we show. But as a team, we came to the conclusion that video is the most compelling medium to pitch Netflix to non-members. By communicating what's unique and compelling about Netflix in a short video-based asset, we can better answer prospective members' questions, driving more interest and ultimately higher signups and realized revenue. So we felt if our team is always focused on trying to convert more users, we just felt there was a moment in time where this page just didn't do it as much as we could. A lot of users that came, new users that came to Netflix, they didn't really understand what they could do with Netflix. And that's the good part about being a product designer at Netflix is you have to be very inclusive when you think of how big of an audience Netflix has. So we're touching every continent, and we're touching hundreds of millions of people. Everybody won't be on the same education level of a product. So you want to make sure that the people who do have questions can get their questions answered. You also want people to make sure that they can get all of the value props and all of the information that they need to make the decision of whether or not they want to sign up for your business. And after a moment in time, we felt this page just didn't do it as much, and we wanted to replace it with the video. So now here's where the fun starts. How do you come up with a video for 200 million people that will be in 33 plus languages and serves the purpose of explaining value props, showing the breadth of content, and make it exciting and interesting in a way where people would resonate with it, and it would actually help them want to sign up for the platform. So what we did was, as a team, we brainstormed 5 possible directions we could explore for the video. Each concept had pros and cons, but I personally was focused on a video that was scalable, effective, inclusive, and easy to update. So the inclusive part was really important to me because I want all of our users to always feel welcome and respected at Netflix. So I don't want anything to ever feel too Western or too Eastern or too male or too female. I want everything to always feel very, very neutral and inclusive. So that was important to me. But as being one of the designers, I needed this to be easy to update whenever we launch it, because we're always releasing new content every time. So these are the type of things I need to worry about at the beginning of a product before we even get started designing anything, trying to figure out, what does a successful product look like? And a video that does all 4 of those things will be successful for us, because those are what's really important to us. So as a team, these were the first 5 concepts that we came up with. Concept A was something for everything. And all of these are our value props. So we took the value props and broke them out into individual video ideas. A, something for everyone. B, unlock Netflix. C, anytime, anywhere. D, freedom. And E, this is Netflix. So the interesting thing about this is each of these styles of videos was a completely different kind of video, where option B was heavily animated. Option E was animated, but also very simple and focused solely on value props. Option C was going to be a live action that we would have to hire actors for. Option A and option D was also going to be live action, because we felt that that's what our users wanted to see. But remember, I said we don't focus on just our assumptions. So these are our assumptions, but to help us get a better understanding of if these assumptions were right, we did some qualitative analysis, and that's where we actually showed these concepts to customers. We showed them to about 10 plus customers in Palm Springs, Florida, to help get a better understanding of what did users like, what did users not like, because we didn't want to go down the motions. Well, one, we couldn't create all 5 of these videos, but also we didn't want to select the video and spend all the time creating it that ends up not resonating with our users at all. So based off of the research from the qualitative calls, and we do a ton of research at Netflix. I mean, we do research for almost every medium to large project. I work closely with our research team. They're amazing. I've learned so much about the value of research. And I think by doing a lot of research, it helps you with truly understanding who your users are. And that user empathy is super, super important. But listen to some of these takeaways that we got that was so helpful. So one, we realized that the live action potentially didn't work well in this context. It's going to be too expensive, and it could be potentially polarizing, as well as it's going to take a long time to produce. You have to write the script. You have to find the actor, actresses. You have to shoot this stuff. You have to edit it. It's going to take so long to do that. We also realized that narrative storytelling could be Sometimes it's interesting, sometimes people don't. And if they don't resonate with that storytelling style, then they're completely tuned out. Some people thought that option C, which was one of our live action videos, was a little creepy, kind of pushing, and even annoying. So based off some of this feedback, we realized that, well, concept B and concept E were probably a really good place to start for our A/B test. And then we also realized that our participants, they really resonated with seeing our breadth of content. They really want to be overwhelmed with how much content we have on the platform that they could potentially watch. And that really helped users understand Netflix more. So these key points allowed us to go from those 5 options down to 3 options. So we now have option B, E, and Z. So option Z was a really good idea, and it came in at the last minute, where we were thinking about using all of the different content that we have on Netflix to possibly make this video. But you know the problem with that? How are you going to pick content that everybody likes? That's kind of difficult to just decide on, where, you know, people in Australia watch different stuff than people in the United States, watch different stuff from Europe, watch different stuff in Africa. So when you start thinking of what content do you show, it was just endless. And we wanted to make sure we produced a video that resonated with all of our users. So we realized, even though we really all liked concept Z wouldn't really work. So now we're down to B and we're down to E. Concept E was very simple, very clean. It helped show our breadth of content, but it didn't have that pizzazz that we needed to really feel exciting about updating this massive, one of the most important pages for us. And that's where we now start to lean towards concept B. And concept B just gave us a lot of flexibility. We could put the value props we wanted. We can show some video. We can show our breadth of content. You could set it up to where you would be able to update it a lot easier than another style of video. So it started to seem like, even though we went from 5 videos down to 3 concepts, it started to feel like we really were honing in on this one concept B video. And concept B is the direction that we actually decided to go with. But it gets very, very complicated in how you build concept B, which I'll explain like a little more. So this is, sorry that put so much text on the screen, but I really wanted to give you a true example of what testing looks like. Testing at Netflix is so important. A little bit of tidbit info is, every user on Netflix is in some kind of test. Now, this isn't to be intrusive or to be sneaky, but this is the best way for us to know what people really think about our platform. So some people will see one UI, some people may see another UI, some people may see this, some people may see that, but that A/B testing is the best way for us to get that true signal on what's the best way to go. So here's how we came to the ultimate conclusion to pick B, though. Like, I want to go a little deeper into what it looked like. So if we decided to go with concept B, we needed a voiceover. If we decided to go for concept E, we needed a voiceover, but we also thought maybe we need a female or male voiceover. Concept Z didn't need a voiceover because we would be using audio from the actual shows themselves. And then we also wanted to do some other small UI updates where we updated some buttons, we moved some text around a little bit, and we put all of those into what we call as cells. So this is a 8-cell test. Cell 1 is control, which is what we always have. Well, which is what is live now. And then the other ones, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 are all iterations of the ideas that we had. So the population for this was actually our whole user database, which we don't usually do global tests like that. We prefer to do smaller tests. But for this one, because it was such a big rollout, we really needed to know what multiple demographics thought about it. Our primary metric was signups as well as realized revenue. Like I said, we're very tied to metrics. So just launching the video is not the only win for my team. Producing the video, launching the video, and then being able to look at the data afterwards to determine if any of these numbers went up or went down, that's the real win for our team. So from the results of this test, concept B1, like I said, but I want to give a little bit of an insight into why concept B won. It showed our breadth of content, which like I said, is super important. But as a company, we want to be very, very inclusive of all the content we show. So I worked with our engineering team to build a backend to populate option B, where now, depending on where that user is opening Netflix from, that background content that they see is localized and geared towards that area based off what the viewing preferences are like. So a user who opens up Netflix in Mexico wouldn't see the same content as a user from the United States or someone from Europe. And that kind of inclusiveness is really important because we always want people to feel like Netflix is for you, not Netflix is just a US company who tells everybody else what to watch. We really want everybody to feel like they can come and find something that is interesting to them. So being able to have that kind of flexibility is super important. There's a lot of things tied in where we pull the top 50 videos for each genre, and that's how we decide what to show for each section of the video. Like I'll show the video in a little bit. I'm excited. So don't worry, you'll get to see it. And updating the breadth of the content was really important for us. But also what was really important was being able to show our value props on the screen, but then not only show the value props as text, to be able to localize that text once again. So we translate our text into 33 plus languages. So wherever that user is and whatever they have their default language set to is what this video would actually update to be. So if you were in Spanish, you would see the text in Spanish and you would see content that was related to your region, but also we take it a step farther and we localize the content artwork that you see. So we almost like double localize. We show you relevant information for your area, but then we also update the language on the artwork so that everything just feels really, really more inclusive for our users. And then this part is where it got super, super technical. So we needed a voiceover for this, right? But the problem with that is you immediately now have to work with the brand team because you have to figure out, okay, so what is the voice of Netflix gonna sound like? Is it a male? Is it a female? Which is one massive question. And then second, when you think of, if you're gonna translate this into 33 languages, it is really pricey and time consuming to find a male or female voiceover actor to do all of these 33 languages. You also probably wouldn't be able to find one person that could do all 33. So now you got to start finding different people all over the world who can speak this language in the right tone and in the right context for people to really be able to understand it and enjoy it. So we started thinking about how much this was going to cost and how much time this was going to take. And it just started to get into the hundreds of thousands of dollars and just months and months of work where, remember, like I said, we're always iterating as a team and always coming up with better ideas. So we actually decided to remove the voiceover at the last minute and have our internal music team create a custom audio track for us, which worked perfectly. It saved us money. It was super scalable. It wasn't leaning towards male or female voiceover or anything that felt too specific. It was just a nice track that worked well. And we were able to do it in-house, which allowed us to get it done a lot faster. And we were able to make a lot of tweaks. I was able to work with the engineer who built the song, who built the track to slow it down, put some tweaks in there. So being able to have that much control over this project was really important to ultimately build a product that I was really happy with, that I felt would do the job. So, result. Of the three that we tested, concept B actually ended up being the directional winner, driving a 2.5 sign up and 2.6% realized revenue lift. And it's estimated that this new update for this video will end up bringing in an extra $30 million a year for us. But I want to actually share the video itself with the audio so that you can see it and you can tell me what you think. So, okay. All right. Ready, action.
Fonts, there is no
Yep.
sound. There is no
Oh,
sound.
okay. 1 second. 1 second. We go through this all the time.
I know.
We go through this all the time, but I actually know how to fix it. So if you
I don't.
share your tab, if you share your tab, you should be able to hear it. No?
No, not yet.
Okay, hold on 1 second. I was hoping that didn't happen, but I do still have a slight fix for it. Let me finish with the presentation and then I can come back to show the video. So, like I said, ultimately, we launched this. It went live at the beginning of the year. It was a fantastic release. If you have Netflix now, if you're logged in, you won't be able to see this because remember, this is for users who currently are not Netflix subscribers. If you want to see this video, log out of Netflix. And then when it reloads, you'll see this new video, which is just so exciting. I need to try to figure out this audio, but I downloaded the video. Like, I think I'll be able to share it now with everyone. Let's see. And then some takeaways I wanted to give everybody is that user empathy is key for enterprise level product design, because you want to build what your users want, not what you want. Because what you want may not be what the users want. And you'd be surprised how many companies lose touch with that. And they just put out a lot of products. And then when the products are not successful, they're confused and they're wondering why. And the reason is because you didn't do a good enough job of understanding the problems that your user had and making sure that your product solved their problems. When it comes to growth design, data is your friend. You really should use it to help drive design. Now, does it dictate the design? No, but it's a really strong support of, well, the data says this, so you should probably go that way as opposed to go to the other way. Now, is it the end all be all? No. Are there times that we make decisions that go against the data? For sure, because we have that flexibility. It's just that when you use the data, it ends up being very, very, very helpful. Like I said earlier, why make assumptions about things when you can test? And tests don't always have to be massive tests. They don't have to have as many cells. Like the test that I showed you had 8 cells. That's a more complicated test. You can have a test that only has 2 cells in there. It's just more about deciding which is the best option and getting some kind of feedback to make that decision, as opposed to just saying, well, I like option B, so let's roll with B. And then inclusive products make users happy. When you think of all the people around the world that open this video, that can see this video and read the text in their native language, they can see content that's related to their area, as well as the content artwork updated in their language. That just shows the time and the energy that Netflix puts into building an inclusive platform. And our users really, really respect that. And then lastly, always be lean and resourceful. Like I said, we cut the audio out. We had the money to pay for the audio. We had the time to pay for the audio. And we had the resources to find some voiceover artists that could have did every language for us. But was that the right decision? And the answer was no. It would have stretched the project out a lot longer. And I'm glad that we were able to come together as a team and think about other ways to get this problem solved as opposed to just that way. And being resourceful. We used our internal audio team as opposed to trying to go out and find another music producer to make it. And I think that's one of the benefits of working at a company like Netflix is there's a ton of resources, and it's my job as the lead growth designer to know how to use those resources. And I do every day. That's why I'm always talking to my coworkers. We share our work. We're a very collaborative and feedback focused team. So because of that, everybody feels on the same page and everybody can support each other. So thank you for that. This is questions time, but I'm going to try to figure out 1 second how to get this video playing. I downloaded it and I should be able to play it from download desktop. Okay, here we go. Let's try this again. Hold on 1 second. Okay. Go to the chat. There you go.
Not yet.
Not yet? Wow.
Well, at least not on mine. So
Yeah, no. Why is it not letting me? Why can't you hear the audio? I'm so sorry. Okay, well then I'll just play the video though, and then just take my word for it that there's a really cool audio track in the back. But you can still watch the video to really understand the difference between what I showed originally, which was the one static image that just had the content diagonal look across it, to now update it to this new video. Yeah, so I'm sorry that the audio didn't play for that, but I can send a link for everyone to watch it later if you really want to hear the audio. But the audio just really helps, but it's kind of like background music, because when you think about it, one last piece I want to say is we didn't want to spend all that time getting all those voiceovers done if there was a chance people could have their audio muted. So if people don't always have their volume up loud, people may have their TV muted. So to think we spent all this time producing all these voiceovers that could possibly not even be heard is another reason why we realized a custom track made sense. So this is the way we're always iterating on ideas to make them better and more successful. And that's part of the reason why I like working on the growth team, because we're just very, very flexible and agile like that. So we got about 15 minutes. I wanted to end at exactly 9:45 because I wanted to give as much time as possible for everyone to ask whatever questions you want. And thank you. So go for it. The floor is open. Like I do see one in the chat, Brian Holt. I don't know how you want to run the audio.
Yeah, go. If you want to reply to it directly, that would be great.
So have you thought about customizing yes. So Osama asked, have you thought about customizing the video based on the geographic region? Yes, that's pretty much what we do. So we pull the user data, the usage data from that region where you're opening up Netflix from, and that's what determines the thumbnails that you saw sliding in the background. So all of those are constantly dynamic and rotating based on where you're from. So US users will see one set of videos, European, and depending on which country you're in, you'll see a separate set of videos. So as of right now, the video is customized per geographic region, as well as whatever language you have selected as your default language in your account settings.
Okay, I go from left to right. Abir on my screen. Abir, you have a question?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the great presentation. I have one question. You've mentioned something about how important measures are, and you've measured your success about this story as a new subscribers rate. And I am curious of how we can measure or analyze the members turnover. So how can you it's because it's nearly impossible to I think integrate user empathy for each one who left or canceled their subscription.
Well, great question. Well, a lot of our users are returning users that canceled and came back, right? So they may not even see this video, but you still want to make sure that you're building an experience that if they did see this video, if for some reason they forgot or they needed to be updated with all of the different value props of Netflix, that's why you produce a video like this. But our users come from either non-members that have never had Netflix or users that had it and left and came back. So this video would be more for our members that have never seen Netflix or signed up more than our former members. The way we try to show empathy for our former members is we make their sign-up process a lot easier. If you already have an email on file, we'll detect that. If you have a phone number on file, we'll detect that. If you have a payment that's still valid, we'll detect that. So that prevents you from having to go through the same steps as a new user would. So you can be back in Netflix in like 5 minutes, where opposed to a new user may take a little longer. So we try to handle them separately. And I think what we realize is most important for former members is getting them back into Netflix as fast as possible. Where the new users, it's about letting them know the value props, the price, all the different things that you can do with Netflix. No problem.
Elena, you have a question as well?
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you, Fons, for this great presentation and taking us through the journey of bringing an idea to the customer. My question is, you mentioned that this journey took about 2 years. And so my question is, which stage was the most challenging and which stage you reiterated the most?
I would say the stage that was the most challenging was the ending where we had to try to figure out how are we going to build a video that would have 500 plus thumbnails that can be updated without it needing to be done by an individual designer. That would take one person's whole 40-hour a week to ever do that. But then when you think, like I said, there's 33 different languages. So there's no way one designer is going to be able to ever update all of that. So that's where we had to put our thinking caps on and try to figure out how can we work with engineering to build a back end that is more dynamically powered, that doesn't require any human interaction, honestly, except for us telling telling the system what to put in there, but no designer had to go and download them and recrop them or change anything. So I think that part was the most difficult because we didn't have that. That didn't exist before. So this needed to be built, but because of the cross collaboration of our culture, another engineer that wasn't even on this project had just heard about this and came to one of our meetings, told me about something that he was working on. And I asked him, did he think there was a way that we can work together to build this new backend for the video? And it was. And it was such a big win for everybody because this was something that kind of happened organically, where I just realized it was going to take too long for somebody to do this. And then it just so happened an engineer was building something similar and we brought those together. So I would say that was the most tricky part, because if we didn't come up with that system, it would have been impossible to really make this video as inclusive and be able to update it as fast and as quickly as we want. Like, we can update that video in a second. We can put all new content for anything like this, where opposed to if a designer had to do it, they would have to go to the database, download all of the information, resize it, export it, send it to the engineer. The engineer has to upload it. All of that is done behind the scenes. And I would say the part that we iterated the most on would be more towards the beginning, because we didn't really know what was the best concept to go with. So like I said, we started with 5 and we put the time into those 5, but then we realized those 5, you can't do 5. So we had to go down to 3. And then when we got to those 3, we had to keep tweaking the videos until we got to a point where we felt we liked all 3 equally. And then we had to pick one. It wouldn't have been fair to only put a little bit of time into 2 of them, put a lot of time into 1, because that would have been biased towards that one. So we had to put a lot of energy to make sure that we liked all 3 concepts. And then once we liked all 3 concepts, we did the test, which then allowed us to see which was the best direction to go in. And that ended up being option B. So that just alone took about 7 months to do. So the project would speed up and slow down, because there were so many different teams involved. Like I said, there was one piece I forgot to add, I'm sorry. There was over 10 teams involved in producing this video, and over 50 people helped actually make this video. There were so many different teams when you think of localization to globalization to product managers to program managers to editors to After Effects animators to product designers, data science, engineering. It was so many people involved in this, but at the end of the day, we got it done. And I would say that the getting to one concept was the part that required the most iteration.
So I assume that the first part or the first stage took the longest.
Yes, because one, we had to come up with the concepts, and then we had to actually produce those first 5 to actually see what they would be like. And that was through storyboarding. Some of them, we didn't go all the way through producing because it would have required us to actually hire actors or hire actresses and write the scripts. So some of those we kept in storyboard form, where other ones we actually built in After Effects. So that process, and there's no telling how long it's going to take each person to get their thing done. So that part took almost a year as well. And then once we got to concept B to launch, that was about 6 months.
Wow, thank you so much.
No problem.
Dima, you had a question, or you raised your hand earlier.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Fons, for the comprehensive presentation. I had a question, but you answered it. Was about the team. So
I did.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was about the diversity of the team and how members did they do that job. Yeah, thank you.
So one other piece I want to add is so there's benefits to working at a bigger company like Netflix, where, like I said, we have the resources. So we have an internal team that's called our design ops team, which is short for design operations. It's a pretty new discipline, but they're focused on supporting design and kind of being the liaison between design and engineering, design and product management, design and data science, to where I didn't have to manage that whole project by myself. I was able to use my design ops lead with that. And that allowed us to set up all of the meetings, all of the Slack conversations, all of the documents that we had. And we're really, like I said, we're really focused on feedback. So we make these amazing detailed test specs that explain everything that we had in it from A to Z. And then we share it company-wide, and we let anybody give feedback. You don't have to be working on that product to give feedback. We respect everybody's feedback, and we want to be as diverse and like my favorite word, inclusive as possible. So we share those docs out, and then everybody gives their feedback, and then we have bigger meetings and smaller meetings to finally come to the conclusion. But there's a lot of communication involved with working at Netflix, a lot. Like, I think that's my biggest skill as right now, because we're on video conference and there's so many different people all over the place that without communication, it's really hard to get things done.
Osama, you have a question?
Yeah, thank you, Fons, for the presentation. My question is about the concept. You mentioned you asked only 10 users to choose which concept they preferred. So why 10? Actually, I think if you asked more than 10 users, you will get, I think, a different answer.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's really hard to schedule these calls. Like this is physically finding people to come into. So this was before COVID hit. So we didn't do a lot of our calls over video conference. We physically went to the users and did it. So to go to Palm Springs and find 10 diverse people that would be able to come in and take the test that don't know about. So all of the different levers that we needed, you end up not having as many people as you would think. But then also you don't want too much feedback where now you don't have no direction towards anything. It wasn't that these 10 people were the end all be all. It was the fact that it was a diverse enough audience to be able to help us make that final decision. So I think you can get that same thing with 10, 100, 1,000. If you just start to multiply it up, if 5 people out of 10 like it, that's 50%, 500 out of 1,000 like it, that's still 50%. So I think it was less about the amount of people and just more understanding out from our users what they thought about the video, the content we were showing, the direction that we wanted to go, and then using that feedback to figure out what the next steps would be so that we at least had some external feedback as opposed to just deciding internally. So the amount of people wasn't as important as just the feedback from the people.
Sarah?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, thank you very much. That was very insightful. So based on your very impressive experience, so let's say if you are moving towards building an innovation lab, what do you think is the key success factors that will differentiate you or push you towards a successful an innovative program? What is the factors? What I assume or what I got from your conversation is resources is very important. So I just want to hear from you. What do you think is the key pillars?
Resources is important, but every situation won't have equal resources. So I don't want to say resources is the end all be all. What's really important is building a good team, having the right people on the team that want to be on the team, and then having good leaders on the team who can help take the team where they need to go. They can help support the other teammates on the team, help everybody stay focused, and constantly understand what you're building this lab to do. Like, what does success look like? Who's the end result of this lab? Not necessarily just the people who work in the lab, but if you're building stuff for a certain population, you need to make sure you're always in tune with that population. So you build this great team, you get the resources to make sure you're solving the user's problems. If not, you could potentially end up just building a bunch of products. And yes, you'll say we release these products, but were they successful? Did people use them? Just because you build it, that don't mean people will use it or people will like it. So I would say it is resources, but I would also say it's teamwork and the team that you built, and it's understanding why you're doing everything. So I hate to be so vague with it, but you'll be surprised how many teams and projects get started and everybody's not on the same page about what we're doing or why we're doing this or what does success look like. You need that clarity always so that when somebody is confused or somebody doesn't understand what's going on, they can always go back to these original, whether you want to say strategy bets, whether you want to say business strategy goals, you need to get those set in place so people aren't just floating around. They're going to be looking to the leaders of the company, like I said, for direction and support. So you want to build from the top down, but you want to make sure that the top is really aware of the team and is allowing the team to be superstars. And that doesn't always require millions or billions of dollars, but it does require somebody who cares, somebody who's passionate about it, somebody who's interested and wants to do that, because they're going to be good times and they're going to be bad times. And resources won't always solve that. If you have a team of people that aren't happy on the team, it doesn't matter if everybody's making a good salary or y'all have money to do this and do that. So there's like hard and soft skills that's necessary to be successful. And I would think from the soft side, the communication is key. And a lot of people join companies and they don't really find that community or the ability to communicate clearly. And that's what makes us happy as humans. So yes, there's the technical side of the resources and the team, but then there's the more soft skill side, which is the principles and the values and the direction, so that people can tie into those and believe in those and push everything to get done.
Great, and even with something as creative as innovation, you still need guidance and
You need
a bit of boundaries and process. Yeah.
No, you need
great.
guidance. You need leadership. People want that. Your team will want that, because at the end of the day, like the last piece I'll say is, they need somebody who is going to make a decision. They need decision makers who not just say, well, I'm the boss, I'm going to make the decision. They'll say, I'll make the decision, but I made the decision based off the input from my team. So everybody feels involved, everybody feels equal, everybody feels respected. And that's how you build a solid team, where nobody wants to go off to another company and everybody wants to stay in it for the long haul. Because if not, then you'll start to see your team lose interest. And before you know it, you're just not able to produce the way you thought you was, because you didn't focus on something other than just resources. So that's why I don't want to make it just seem like it's all about money, because it's definitely not just that, because we're humans at the end of the day, is what I'm saying.
Great, thank you very much. That was really helpful.
You're welcome. Thanks for the question.
Fons, I have a quick question. I'm not sure if it's quick, but you mentioned that nothing happens without a hypothesis. And then with the story that you shared, you focused quite a bit on the ideation part as well as the testing. How do you end up with a hypothesis?
So we have bigger company strategy bets that the CEO, the COO, the chief product officer, we decide on these strategy bets at the beginning of the year. And these are all geared towards making Netflix more successful, bigger, more revenue, growing our users. So based off those strategy bets, those now start to lean towards certain teams. Let's say strategy bet 1 through 5 is engineering focused, strategy bet 6 through 10 is design, or 11 through 15 is product. So when you see those strategy bets, it's now up to us to decide, how do you achieve that strategy bet? So the strategy bet is where we start, but that's it. It's just, how do we go from 200 million to 300 million? That's the strategy bet. We as a team now say, well, how do we think you get 300 million users? Do you need to go into a market that we're not really that popular in? Do we need to focus more on converting existing users? Do we need to offer a new product? Do we need to give something away? So you start to go down from the strategy bet until you get to the point where you kind of have an idea, but that idea needs to be put into a hypothesis form. So it goes from strategy bet to internal discussion, where we decide which could have the most impact, what's the most feasible, what's priority. And then based on all of those together is how we come up with the hypothesis. So we can say, okay, now that we're all on the same page with this, we can actually get started. Okay.
Great, thanks. The reason why I'm asking is because our focus here is human-centered design and design thinking. And you mentioned kind of 3 parts of human-centered design, or design in general, which is the hypothesis, maybe you could call it an insight, and the ideation and the testing. So I was just wondering if you use, for the very important phase of need finding and discovery, whether you use a very strong human-centered approach, or whether it comes from top-down strategy.
Great question. I would say it's both. I'm really glad you brought that up, because we go back and forth about strategy bets all the time. Like, I've seen strategy bets change because they came from the top down, and when it got to the team that was going to implement it, we didn't believe that was the best strategy bet, or we didn't like our ideas of what we came up with to possibly achieve that strategy bet, or that strategy bet just didn't even seem feasible. So that's where you start to see the human-centered side come into play. Or if we just don't agree with the strategy bet as a design team, we just say, from our perspective, that's just not going to work. We need to compromise. We need to figure something out. So Netflix supports that And design, I feel design is a representative of our customers. So if I'm saying I'm coming from the side of our customers, you really don't want to dismiss what I'm saying. So that's where that compromise comes into play of, yes, we have business strategy, but we also have a design team that's really good at what they do. So if we need to push more from the human-centered side to push back the strategy bets, we have, and we will do that. And we've been successful as well. So I think it's a mixture of both, but it starts with the strategy bets.
Yeah, I guess my take would be that in an ideal human-centered world, the strategic priorities are based on human-centered discovery.
And goals of the company. And just goals of the company as well, honestly.
Right. Yeah.
Which is super important always. I mean, the company is always focused on revenue and getting more users, but it stops at that point, and you now have to ask yourself, well, how do you do that? And you have to get into a human-centered, because you have to figure out, well, how do you get into the mind of these people? What do these people need to hear, need to see? What's it going to take to get these people to do whatever you want them to do? And if you're not human-centered or have empathy for your users, I don't really see how you're going to do that.
Yeah. Well, Fons, I really appreciate your presentation and your sharing your stories. Wonderful.
Really glad to be here.
Here's our virtual applause.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll give it back to you as well. Thank you for
and
joining today.
if you could, if you have a second and add the link to the chat for the sound, that would be fantastic.
No problem. I will definitely do that.
I really look forward to the sound now.
Yeah, the sound is good. It's good for sure.
Yeah.
Let me upload this.
Great. And
so don't close the chat out.
No. We have another. We'll continue, but let's take a 5-minute break for stretching and a few other human-centered needs.
Thank you, everybody.
We'll be back in 5 minutes. Thanks again, Fons.
Thank you. Bye.
Really appreciated it. Thanks.
No problem. I had a great time. Great question.
Okay, everybody, if you're back, if you could turn on your videos or your video so that I know you're back. So I'm not the only one who is having problems with technology. It even happens to people who work right at the center of technology in Silicon Valley. I thought it was a great story that Fons shared with us. Any additional thoughts, questions, reflections about his presentation and specifically how it relates to our program? Anyone? Oh, there you go. There we go. Lena, you raised your hand.
Yes, thank you. I think from his story, once again, it's the importance of leadership and team synergy. I always thought that resources and availability of data is the most crucial element of having an innovative team, but I'm always reminded, and I'm happy that I was reminded today of the importance of a team that works in let's say in a way that allow innovative ideas to come to life. So yeah.
Yes, I think it. What you just said also echoes the emphasis that we had during the first week, last week, which was really focusing much more on how to build a learning culture and how to build innovative teams. I couldn't agree more with you that in general, but innovation in particular is a team-based effort. And if the team doesn't work, if there is no psychological safety, then you have a lot of roadblocks towards the goal of innovation. Dima, you also raised your hand.
Yeah, thank you so much, Reinhold, for asking. Well, I have two reflections that I would like to share. The first one was definitely something I'm a big fan of, which is the not having a decision based on your experience or your assumptions. It's based on the end user, the clients. And the second one was about feedback. As much as there are many feedback that will support the process. It's not about any number of people involved in that project. It's as much as there will be a diverse feedback that will support the success of the project. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, Dima, you mentioned the importance of feedback, and many of you are already familiar with the design thinking process, which, as I like to say, again, is not rocket science. But there is also the importance of testing and user feedback. We'll get to that point, and I cannot overstate it enough that creating prototypes that make your ideas tangible and getting frequent and early feedback from the users through low fidelity prototypes is, as you pointed out, so crucial. And again, we're at the beginning of this design thinking deep dive. It's still a little ambiguous. Where do you get started? We have some guidance with the field research toolkit focusing on interviewing and observations. and at the same time, we're trying to get used to a new platform. So I want to encourage you to really take advantage of the process and the tools and the techniques that we introduce throughout the process as much as possible. Quantity really is important. Quality, absolutely, but at this point in the design thinking journey, I have to emphasize over and over again, you need to go out and capture as much information about your stakeholders and your users as you can, because the prototypes that you will build later for testing with your key stakeholders and your users are based on the number and qualities of ideas that you generate. And those ideas are based on the unique insights that you will be able to identify. And the unique insights are based on the rich research that you conduct. So as I'm going to put you back into working in teams, I just want to make sure that you utilize this team time as much as possible, planning for the field research, looking at the field research toolkit in the platform, and thinking about planning for the questions. What kinds of questions do we want to ask? Thinking about the observations. And I will share more hints and tips based on my experience tomorrow and on Thursday that will also help you in that process. One other thing, my personal reaction to Fons' story. What a lot of resources and how much time for such a short video. It's just amazing. I mean, it surprised me a little bit. I realized that it was also a video that was promoted in 36 different markets or languages, but still a lot of effort and resources. Two quick things. I posted the stakeholder map example that I shared with you in Slack. And Tim also pointed out to me and reminded me that later on in the design thinking process on the sprint-based platform, there is another example of a stakeholder map, like a very simple layout, and I shared that as well in Slack. So for the remaining 40 minutes, I would like you to kind of use the team time, think about the stakeholder map, use the whiteboard capability of the sprint-based team space platform, see if you can start early, sketching out your understanding of a stakeholder map. That is, of course, a project like everything else in development. And then the other thing is really start focusing on the interviewing and the observation. Maybe today on the interviewing, and look at the resources available in the sprint-based platform. That's all I want to say right now. Let me just admit 2 more people from the waiting room, and then I'm going to put you back into the breakout rooms. I'm going to visit each breakout room and just going to make myself available if you have any questions. And I'll call you back in about 40 minutes to the main room. Osama, you raised your hand?
Yeah, sorry, where's the stakeholder map? In which folder?
I posted it in the Slack channel in the general, let me double check.